Last but not least, I would like to present a wonderful team from a partner organization called Hope Loves Company. It's a not-for-profit organization that we partner with that take care of kids of all ages who are going through this. It is led by the executive director, Ms. Shannon Sullivan, who just came back from a long trip and is battling jet lag. And they're all hosting from the East Coast, I might add. And her amazing team, Michela Larch and Virginia Mitnacht. Michela is the communication and fundraising specialist, and Virginia is a licensed therapist. And they will provide a brief overview of ALC and talk about some of the challenges faced by young caregivers, the therapeutic side of things, and the goal of supporting activities.
Thank you so much, Jumana, and thank you to all the other presenters today. I really appreciate your input and learning a little bit more about how we can all care for the young caregivers and the young people who are dealing with a family member or a loved one with ALS. So to tell you a little bit to introduce us first before we get started, thank you, Jumana, for our introduction. Myself, Michela, and Virginia will be going back and forth throughout the slides, throughout the presentation. So to tell you a little bit about Hope Loves Company and who we are. Hope Loves Company was founded in 2012 by Jody O'Donnell Ames after she realized the lack of resources available to her children, who all lost a parent to ALS before the age of 12. Hope Loves Company is the only nonprofit in the U.S. dedicated to providing both emotional and educational support to children and young adults who have or have had a loved one battling ALS. Now, I want to stress, I said have or have had. We work with children who currently have a loved one with ALS or somebody who has passed away. So even if that loved one has passed away for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, we will still work with that family as we understand that the grief process can last throughout childhood and into adulthood. So we still want to be able to work with these individuals and try to help whatever way we can. So HLC is based in Pennington, New Jersey, and our premier program, Camp HLC, takes place in 6 different states, including New Jersey, Illinois, Georgia, California, Massachusetts, and Indiana, as well as virtually via Zoom.
Hi, everybody. I'm Virginia here. I just also want to thank everybody for their wonderful presentation so far. And, as we heard in the presentations from Jennifer and Liz, and as you all are intimately aware, navigating the journey of ALS is extremely difficult, right? And for young people, and especially children and adolescents, their experience of caregiving and more widely their experience with loss and grief is complicated, and it's multi-layered, right? And so accepting and adapting to this change when there's already so much developmental change happening at these ages, it's intense, right? And it can be really impactful. Now, one piece, the ambiguous loss is one piece I just want to call attention to. It kind of goes hand in hand to what we were hearing about earlier. But, the nature and the course of the disease contributes to what's called ambiguous loss, in addition to anticipatory grief, which is a loss that occurs when a loved one is physically with us, but is not mentally and emotionally with us in the same way as before. Right. And so young people are often grieving the loss of a parent or a loved one as they knew them before ALS. And it can leave kids in a place of real confusion and of searching for answers and, feeling of kind of lack of conclusion or closure, which can really complicate the grieving process, the healing process, and kind of lead to unresolved grief. And so in addition to kind of the ambiguous loss that we kind of experience connected to the relationship, children can also experience and adolescents can certainly experience a lot of kind of secondary losses, especially as the ALS journey kind of progresses, right? So certainly changes in routines and lifestyle, absolutely at home, but also most definitely in school spaces, in times with friends and in social spheres. And any kind of opportunity for, normotypical experiences that are associated with being a kid, right? And, the combination of these losses can lead to really complicated and diverse feelings and expressions of grief. And, without the support, which is where, we kind of hope to come in with HLC, it can lead to prolonged mental health challenges and behavioral challenges and issues and, withdrawal, self-isolation and self-insecurity. And, I just want to stress again, it's a time when children and adolescents are really trying to develop that sense of self, right? And so this can really act as a rupture to that process, and thus kind of like an isolation from opportunities to grow and to really gain that sense of self. So it's so important that we provide safe and secure places and opportunities for young people to process this life change and to connect together and to learn healthy ways to navigate it so that they can lead happy and healthy lives. And this takes us to goals. So this is certainly the goals, or the goal of the activities that HLC, that we provide through HLC. And everything we do at HLC is aimed at, diminishing these feelings of isolation and encouraging, the building of connection with others who do understand the unique experience of caring for a loved one with ALS. And we really hope to cultivate a space that feels conducive for dialogue for young people and their families around the complicated experience of ALS. We certainly aim to validate and to allow space for and really, kind of honor the diverse range of feelings that are associated with this process. We were talking about this a bit earlier, but certainly sadness, but also guilt and resentment and anger and frustration, some of those kind of scary feelings that we bury because we fear what it means to say them out loud, right? And, kind of associated with our lives being turned upside down, these children's lives being turned upside down. And I think there's we've seen this, solidarity and support in feeling them and identifying them together, right? And this time together really gives kids the opportunity to share their experiences and, and the connected feelings in a space that's safe and non-judgmental and comforting. And just a few more points there through our activities and certainly through our group spaces, which we'll talk about a little later. We really kind of aim to explore like healthy and appropriate ways to manage and express our feelings, right? So certainly verbally, and how we communicate our feelings and our wants and needs, whether it be with loved ones or friends or coaches or teachers, and also non-verbally, right? How we can express ourselves through art or music or painting, drawing, journaling, exercise, right? We also really focus on building skills, right? So skills in self-soothing, such as deep breathing and mindfulness practices and yoga. We explore self-care strategies. We kind of aim to bring awareness to self-care strategies or the activities we all love, right? That help us feel connected to ourselves and share them together. And, it's places like camp and these other opportunities through HLC that we also can just really have fun, right? And to take a break and space from home life and to just enjoy being a kid in a space that's enriching and restorative, and to be a family together in a space that's enjoyable and, really comforting. And so it's also a place to, build memories and connection with peers and within families so that when we do go home, we feel more supported and connected to others and to ourselves, right?
Awesome. And now we'll move on to our Hope Loves Company programs. One big thing to note about our programs, all of them are free for kids, teens, and young adults who have or had a loved one with ALS. And Camp HLC is our premier program, but as you can see, we have so many. So Camp HLC, many of you know, but it's typically a 3-day overnight retreat for children and young adults. We usually say between the ages of 6 and 21, who have or had a loved one battling ALS. Families, parents, grandparents are all invited as well. It's an opportunity to have fun, be challenged through team building exercises, and meet other people, other kids who are going through a similar experience that you're going through. We have a lot of fun things. We have hikes, we have games, we have zip lines, we have rock climbing, boating, fishing, But then we also have, and to Virginia's point, we have these this time to kind of reflect a little bit more. We have yoga, we have music, we have group therapy sessions that we have at camp. And as you'll hear through quotes in a video later on, a huge part of camp and most of our programs is actually meeting other kids going through the similar thing that you are and connecting at camp, but then connecting afterwards. Our Hugs of Hope care packages, we always say they're a hug from afar. And these go out to families all across the country. And again, they're free. And it includes an age-appropriate gift, a stuffed animal or a gift card, an HLC t-shirt, a card, a handwritten card from the HLC staff, a snack, an HLC wristband, book, and an HLC brochure. Our virtual HLC Hangouts and meet and greets, Virginia will be touching on this a little bit more later on, so I won't go into too much detail on this, but it's essentially a time set aside every month for different age groups to get together and connect, and they are always led by a mental health professional like Virginia. Our Young Ambassador program is for teens and young adults who have attended at least, we say, one Camp HLC weekend. They can apply for the program. They can attend meetings and events, speak publicly about their ALS journey, spread awareness about HLC and ALS. They can host fundraisers. They can write for our newsletter and our website. So we say this is a great opportunity for them to build their business, writing, public speaking, and marketing skills through that program. We have 2 scholarships in honor of 2 amazing women, Susan B. Anderson and Sarah E.K. Cooper. Both passed away from ALS. These scholarships are offered every fall, and we are now accepting applications for them through the end of the month, through October 31st. We have so many resources listed on our website as well, organizations, podcasts, books, and we put many of the books in our Hugs of Hope care packages. And just to touch on some of those books, What Did You Learn Today was written by Tina Singer Ames. She had ALS. And it gently explains ALS to younger children. And our founder, Jody, wrote The Stars That Shine. And this is another great book for kids to kind of to help them and to introduce them to ALS in a gentle way. And our founder, Jody, also wrote Someone I Love Has ALS with other contributing authors. And the ALS Association obviously also has a lot of great resources on how to speak to, your children about ALS and books that are age specific for children. And with that, we'll go to a little bit more about Camp HLC. And again, I, just touched on a lot of that, but the goals, as we've been saying, is to connect with peers who share in your experiences, to develop healthy coping skills through activities like yoga and art therapy, group therapy sessions. Also just to have fun and to take a little break away from the normal day-to-day. As we've touched on, a lot of the kids are caregivers themselves. So this gives them a break to be at camp with other kids and just have fun and to share their experiences in a safe and inclusive environment with their counselors and peers. So this is a picture from our camp, HLC Chicago 2019. And I wanted to share with you all a quote that is really impactful, and it came from our most recent camp. It was from a mom of HLC campers, and she said, "I have been so excited and also extremely nervous about them being able to get time away, but also with other people who understand. If I could explain with one word how they felt when I saw them last night, it would be light. It was like seeing them pre-ALS. They all were saying how amazing the camp was, the activities were so fun, the people were so caring, and the environment was so uplifting. They kept telling stories of the things they did and saying how grateful they were and how they didn't want to come home. I asked if it was difficult because it was centered around ALS, and they said no, the exact opposite, because we get that question a lot. They told me that with all of their friends at home, they feel so different because no one else understands. And at camp, they met people who understood and were going through the same thing. So I thought that quote was very, very impactful. And with that, we'll turn it over to Virginia to talk about the HLC Hangouts.
Yeah, so to Michelle's point, one of our many activities that we provide at camp is group shares, right? Or kind of these group therapy sessions that, we during that time, we kind of split up into these age specific groups, and we really aim to provide a safe and also confidential space to share in our experience with ALS together. And I've had the privilege of, attending camp in person, but also running online groups that we provide throughout the school year with kids and teens through HLC. And they occur monthly. And we really feel like they provide an accessible and inclusive way to connect to peers across the country, right? An opportunity that really wouldn't be there without the virtual option, right? And the group provides a combination of kind of formal and informal activities. So we might provide some developmentally appropriate and kind of tailored education on the experience and expressions of grief in young people in these spaces. And we really aim to kind of normalize the grieving process during this time, really kind of reiterating that what you're experiencing is expected, and it's hard and it feels impossible sometimes, but it's expected and you're not alone and it's okay. We really aim to validate and to teach and to, kind of share and to learn together. Which I know we kind of talked a little bit about earlier. But most importantly, these group spaces are about building connection, especially through kind of the repetition of having them each month, right? So we can build on that time together, and, about building friendship and about talking about, the shared experience with ALS, but also just as life as a middle or high schooler in general. Sometimes I just take a back seat and let these kids talk about the latest Harry Styles songs or TV shows that they're watching, and just hearing them laugh and enjoy each other. And so I think as much as it is a space of processing and healing and connection in the way of connecting around ALS, it's also just a place to feel like there's some sense of normalcy around being your age. Which I think is really wonderful. And many of these kids also, have started their own kind of chats, right, outside of our group, so that they can kind of connect without having a mental health professional in the room, which I think is really valuable. And they connect to each other outside of camp and outside of the hangout. So there's a real kind of tether, right, that keeps everybody together from camp on, right. And, I'll just note, as someone who does practice therapy mainly virtually with children and adolescents, I know there's I often get that there's a lot of confusion and perhaps kind of misconception around the benefit of virtual mental health services. And, but I've learned, through this work through HLC and my own professional work, that just having a space that is non-judgmental and secure for kids to come together and to connect, and to be able to do so from California to New Jersey, it really promotes like real connection and change, and like kind of positive, emotional and mental health. So I just want to stress that as well. And I'll just share a few quotes from our campers here as well. These are about the Hangouts and about camp in general. So I found that it was the feeling of not being alone in these harsh struggles that made me survive taking care of my dad. Then knowing that many others had walked my path was also comforting when he died. This is the one place that they can come to talk about it, ALS, and talk to each other who have had similar experiences and cope and grieve with each other. I am so happy that I am in Hope Loves company with my dad's support through the tough times I go through, and the tough times my dad goes through, and all of the great people I met that help out my dad and support him, and all of you great people too.
All right, and we just had some pictures there just from a lot of our programs. You got the little guy on the left with his s'more at virtual camp. So we mailed those packages out. And you see all the smiles on the faces, and fishing is always a staple at most of our camps. Yeah, so we wanted to share those pictures with all of you. And we all really like this quote too. Children, after all, are not just adults in the making. They are people whose current needs and rights and experiences must be taken seriously. And this picture is Mackenzie Anderson. So she started as a camper. She lost her mom, who's in the picture here, to ALS at the age of 17. And now Mackenzie is on our Hope Loves Company board of directors as our secretary. One more quote for all of you. It was incredible to be around people who all understood me. And this is a camper about Camp HLC. And you know, I have lots of friends. I have lots of supportive people in my life, but it's just different when it's somebody who has been through the exact same thing as me. And having been at Camp HLC for a short weekend, it kind of opened my eyes to a lot of ways that ALS had impacted my life that I hadn't really noticed. And it made me want to kind of talk about ALS more, just in case there were other people that were isolated. And with that, we want to share a really quick 1-minute video with you all just about the impact of Camp HLC.
HLC, or Hope Loves Company, is an incredible nonprofit that supports children and young adults who have or had a loved one with ALS. Camp HLC, which is a 3-day weekend retreat, grief camp more or less for children.
This is my first time at camp because my dad has ALS.
My husband was diagnosed in January of 2020, and I have 2 little girls, Harper and Olivia.
I've never caught a fish that big.
It is the single most gratifying experience that I have had since this whole thing started. To be around people who really understand the day-to-day of this, and to see my kids thriving in an environment with parents, kids, leadership that all really can identify with what they're going through, has just been so rewarding. I can't even put it into words.
We don't pay for it. We're invited here, and we don't pay a single cent, and the reason we're able to do this is because of our donors.
So that wraps up our presentation. Yeah, that's a little bit about Hope Loves Company and our programs and how we help kids across the country. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for letting us share a little bit about Hope Loves Company.
Thank you so much for sharing what you guys offer